Hello and welcome back in to another preview of the upcoming basketball season. I've done a couple of these already. If you have missed them, you can find them on, if you found this one, you likely found it on Twitter, Taylor from K-Ways, where you can find that Taylor from KWAY, or you can find it on YouTube as well. Search for Taylor Knits, my last name, N as in Nancy, I-T-Z. We've looked at Waverly Shell Rock, we looked at Janesville, we looked at Denver, and we looked at Wapsie Valley thus far. We've looked at both the boys and the girls from all those schools. And today we shift our sights to the west just a little bit, and it's Clarksville. Yeah, we take a look at Clarksville today. We're going to start with the girls, of course, as we've done every time thus far, and I plan on doing in the future. Let's take a look at these Clarksville Indians then, and they went 20-4 last year. This is a good team returning as well. As I mentioned, 20-4 last year, great record. Did lose to AGWSR, another very, very good team. 55-28 was the final score in that. I don't think that score would tell you anything about how good this Clarksville team was last year, because they were very, very good. They scored over 50 points per game. They averaged 26.5 rebounds per game, which perhaps that could go up this year. And they scored pretty much the same amount through all four quarters. They're really even all the way through, which is a very, very good sign as far as how consistent they're going to be. No doubt about that. And they averaged beating teams by nearly 20 points per game. So, this was a very, very good team last year. And what's key about them being so good last year is the fact that they bring back basically everybody this year. They do lose one senior in Capri Rabatach. I'm not sure if I said Capri's last name correct there, and I apologize to Capri and whoever else maybe watching this and thinking that I said that completely wrong. I do apologize, but I do know that Capri was a really when she came in, her effort level was fantastic and was huge. Her energy was fantastic for this Clarksville team last year, and they will miss her. There's no doubt about that. But they do bring back, a ton of talent, and you have to start. Well, the sophomore class from last year, who are now juniors, they're a year older, of course. They've got a little bit more of experience, and it's a heck of a class. There's no doubt about that. Leading the way, Corey Wedeking, she's fantastic. Averaged nearly 15 points a game last year, 14.8 to be exact. She also led the team in assists with 96 on the year, and she forced over 100 steals last year. So not only is she scoring the rock, she's dishing the rock. She's also taking the rock away from the other team, getting it back, and she had far more steals and assists than turnovers, which is a huge, huge key for Clarksville. The fact that your best player is able to do that is vital. And Emma Poppy, another part of that sophomore crew, she had a fantastic year last year. Averaged 8.2 points a game. Looked really solid on the ball, no doubt. She had 58 assists on the year. She did turn it over a little bit more compared to the amount of assists that she had, but she also is capable of forcing some turnover. 62 steals last year for Emma Poppy. And Emma was second on the team in rebounds last year as well, averaging 5 a ball game. Wedeking averaged 4.8 for Clarksville last year. And then you take a look at a person like Janet Borchert. Gives them some size in the paint, which is vital, very, very vital, especially more so, in fact, in the girls' game than in the boys' game. You need some size down there, and you can really do some damage down there, and that's what Janet Borchert offered this team last year. I think that's exactly what she's going to offer again this year. She averaged 8.6 points a game, which is second best on the team. She averaged 5.6 rebounds a game, which was best on the team last year. I think the rebound numbers may go up this year for Janet. I think probably that 8 to 10 range is just fine for her, because there are a number of other players on this team that can get points. Wedeking averaging 15, probably if she's in that range again, Clarksville should be fine. If Emma Poppy can maybe jump up to double figures, this year, I think that would really get them going to an even another level, which would be ideal. And there's another sophomore that we haven't talked about just yet, and that's Chloe Ross, a really, really good athlete. I know a really driven athlete as well. She averaged 7.3 points per game, a really nice sort of extra option that not a lot of teams have. She also was second on the team in steals, so she's a stout defender, a bulldog, can get the ball back for your squad. She's very good at that. Also pulled down 3.1 rebounds a game, which I think is, is a good total for a player like Chloe Ross. If she can get in there and grab you 3, 4, maybe 5 rebounds in a game, you're going to take that all day. And so those 4, sort of that sophomore crew coming back, that's huge. I mean, well, they're juniors now. Sophomore crews now juniors, and they're back. And I think that's vital for Clarksville, and that's going to make them very, very dangerous. You also add in a Mallory Hoodger, who will now be a senior, another very good player, can play a little bit in the post as well. I think she's a very solid option on a lot of other teams. She is a much bigger option than she maybe is on this Clarksville team, and that makes them super duper dangerous. Cheyenne Barron's now just a sophomore. She's an excellent athlete. Maybe basketball is not her number one sport. You probably give that to softball, I would assume. She's an outstanding shortstop on the softball team. But what she does bring to the basketball court is, some ferociousness, some ferocity, and she's got some skill. She's an athlete. We've talked about it a couple of times in these previews. If you have athletes on the court, that's gonna be helpful for you, and Cheyenne Barron certainly is that. There are a number of other players that saw a little bit of time last year that should see a little bit of time again, and if they make that jump up, you may hear their name a little bit more than maybe I'm speaking about them right now. But this is a team. This is a fantastic team. This is a very good team, and I think if you happen to be at a school that has Clarksville on your schedule, you've got to be fairly scared of these Indians. They look very, very good. And again, I mean, they were young last year and went 20-4. They've got another year of experience. Theoretically, they're going to get at least a little bit better. That's a dangerous, dangerous proposition, again, for any team that has to take on Clarksville this year. I think if you're a Clarksville fan, get amped for this winter, because this girls team looks very, very good. Of course, many of these same girls were on that softball team a couple of years ago that finished second. State runners up. I mean, that's incredible. They were so young back then. They finished state runners up, had an outstanding softball season last year as well. I know their volleyball team this past fall had one of their best, if not their best, seasons ever. This is a good group of girls that Clarksville have going through at the moment. If you happen to be a fan of Clarksville, if you live in Clarksville, do not take this lightly. Get out, watch these girls play. You will be impressed. This group is not one that everybody has. You're lucky to have a group like you've got here at Clarksville. So get out, watch these girls play this winter. If we've got them on the radio, listen in when we've got their games. We will. We'll have plenty of their games throughout the winter. You know, K-Way has a ton of games, and Clarksville will definitely be represented. Stay tuned to K-Way. We'll let you know exactly which games we've got coming up. But what that brings me to with this Clarksville squad, I guess, maybe I should talk about what weaknesses I see in this Clarksville team first and foremost. And there's not many. There's not a whole lot of weaknesses. The one that I maybe would say, and it's strictly because of basketball, they haven't had a ton of success necessarily that they can revert back to in basketball per se. And I think that maybe once we get towards the back end of the season into postseason play, perhaps that could come up a little bit. But they've had success elsewhere. And the other maybe, I don't know if you want to call it a weakness, but perhaps there's a little bit of stalety. the same girls doing the same thing. Perhaps it could just get a little bit stale. I don't foresee that happening, but it's happened before with other teams. It's just something to be aware of. I don't think it'll be a problem, but something that maybe this Clarksville team can guard against. The other thing, they don't necessarily have an elite ball handler. I know Wedeking can handle the rock. I know that Poppy, Ross, Behrens can all handle the rock, and maybe some more as well. I don't think they're poor in that category. I just don't think they have that elite ball handler, which would be extremely helpful. But again, not a lot of weaknesses that I foresee in this Clarksville squad. The one other one that I will point out, there were a couple of games that they had last year that were very, very ugly. I think especially it was, granted, it was a very early game in the season. They took on Janesville, and Janesville ended up winning that game. Another fantastic team, but that game was just very, very ugly. There were some other games, though, that Clarksville had that were beautiful, were fantastic, no doubt. But just sort of cleaning it up, sort of sanding the edges, smoothing out those edges, getting them all polished and ready to go, I guess, would be what maybe they could do and guard against the ugly games like they had against Janesville early on last season. So that brings me to sort of my rating scale. If you're not familiar with it, if I give your team a 1, that means you're a title contender. I think you should be expecting to win a title. If it's a 2, it's a state tournament contender. A team that I think should be expecting to get to state or on the very edge of state at the very least. A 3 would be a team that's looking to win more games than lose and perhaps go on a run in postseason play. And a 4 would be a team that's rebuilding, not probably going to make too much damage this year. They're just looking to rebuild and get their program going. For this Clarksville team, I've got them as a 2. I think they're a team that should expect to be at state. The regular season should put them in a spot that is gives them a fairly clear path to get themselves down to Des Moines and the state tournament. I think this is a state tournament type of team. But you have to stay tuned and find out how it all goes. Very interested to see how the Indians do. Now that's going to do it for me here for the girls preview. Remember, the boys preview will come up in just a little bit, so stay tuned to Taylor from K-Way over on Twitter or on YouTube, Taylor Knits. Find me there. And until next time, I am Taylor Knits. Okay, bye.